outstanding, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on! On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DiPrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you. Love you.
You really about to do it?
40 acres and a mule, this is bigger than the music.
You really about to do it?
Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Baby!
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Yeah.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Now, what y'all wanna do? Wanna be ballers, shot callers, brawlers, who be dipping in the bins with the spoilers. On the low from the Jake and the Taurus, trying to get my hands on some grants like Horace. Yeah, living the raw deal, 3-course meal, spaghetti, fettuccine and bill. But still, everything's real in the field, and what you can't have now, leave when you will. But don't knock me for trying to bury 7 zeros over in Rio de Janeiro. Ain't nobody's hero, but I wanna be heard on your hot 9-7 every day, that's my word. Swimming in women with their own condominiums, 5+5s who drive millenniums. It's all about the Benjamins. What? I get a 50-pound bag of for the mutts, 5 carats on my hands with the cuts, and something European chromed out with the clutch. What?
Drinking more liquor, driving a
KBLA Talk 1580. Woo! Like I said, it's wild, wild west and wild, wild east right now in America. Everywhere I look, I see crazy, 12 kinds of crazy. But, you know, we're here. We're here to help you unpack it, figure it out, talk about it. And I'm so grateful that my friend, she's one of the country's leading influencers shaping media today. She's a CNN contributor, an award-winning civil rights attorney, civic leader, philanthropist, talk show host. She's everywhere, and at the same time, she still finds the time to advocate for young people with autism. Wow. As the founder of the Special Needs Network. Attorney Areva Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Glad to be with you.
Glad to have you on. I'm starting to suspect you secretly cloned yourself, and there are 2 or 3 Areva Martins running around.
Some days I feel that way, but I promise you there's only one, and sometimes that one is exhausted. But there's so much going on in the world right now, Dominique. it's just crazy. I think all of us are working overtime just trying to keep up with all of this news, whether it's legal or political or community. It's just a lot going on.
Yeah, and I do my best, but I'm not going to claim I can keep up with all of this. You certainly do. Every time I look up, you're on CNN. We miss you around here. Appreciate your voice. And I know you have a podcast for those who are saying, where's my Areva Martin? Aside from keeping your eyes on CNN, they can hear your podcast.
Yes, I have a podcast called The Special Report. You can go to my YouTube page, and I post a lot of clips from my interviews on my Instagram and Facebook. So you can follow me at All Things Areva Martin and keep up with the conversation, because the conversation is lit. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Some very interesting conversations with newsmakers and influencers across the country.
To be honest with you, this is one I don't think I'm going blow by blow and play by play on the Sean Diddy Combs trial. I was thinking that it might not go forward because that star witness was not able to be found, but going forward, it did, and it is. And right now, Cassie Ventura has been on the stand. Like I said, I haven't followed play by play, but there's been some pretty startling testimony, right?
Wow, Dominique. Today begins the cross-examination of that star witness for the prosecution, Cassie Ventura, who, as we all know, started in a romantic, if you call it that, but in some kind of relationship with Sean Combs when she was just 19. He was 37 years old, and that relationship was on and off for about 10 years. She spent 2 days on the witness stand revealing some of the most horrific incidents of violence, sexual and physical violence you can imagine anyone enduring. I told my social media guy, let's just do a photo of her #courage, because no matter what you think about her or Sean Combs, what she recounted over the last 2 days, you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And you are a mother, I'm a mother, we're women, we have sisters and mothers and girlfriends and daughters, and I just don't even know how she survived what she endured. And she did say she contemplated suicide, and at one point wanted to take her life, and I can empathize with how she got to that point. But I'm grateful that she was able to get into rehab. She had the support of a strong mother and others around her, and she now is a mother herself of 2 children and is expecting her third in just about a month or so. So 8 months pregnant, on a witness stand, testifying literally about men urinating on her during sexual acts.
Yeah, I mean, that
Just
seems really
killing.
stressful when you're pregnant. I mean, right now I can't even see how she can do that. But of course, the thing we hear over and over again from skeptics is, why did she wait so long? Why did she stay with him? She was only there for her career or for the money.
Yeah, and that's the way we have thought about sexual assault victims in this country for decades. But thank God that when you know better, you should do better, and we know better. There has been so many studies produced by world-class scientists, world-class psychologists, psychiatrists that debunk this myth that somehow a domestic violence or sexual assault victim has the wherewithal just to get up, walk out, I'm done with this, it's over. And they have educated us, the public, those that want to be educated, about Stockholm Syndrome, about the ways in which powerful men manipulate and cause psychological trauma to victims that causes them to stay. There's some stats out there that say it takes women often 7 or more times before they're able to leave an abusive relationship. A lot of it has to do with the power dynamics. It has to do with that manipulation that occurs, the brainwashing, and then the fear. If you listen to that testimony, the man had videotapes of her in sexual encounters, threatening to blackmail her, threatening to expose these videos. And then the beatings. I mean, not just slaps, but I mean beat downs, leaving knots on her head, bruises all over her body, black eyes, the sheer fear, living in constant fear of being fatally beaten, watching someone like him beat other people, dangle her friend off a balcony, a la gangster style. So for those people who are skeptics, please read, please research, please educate yourself, and stop looking at this through the lenses of people living in the 1930s or 40s, because we're not. It's a new day.
Forensic accountant in our YouTube chat says, my bigger question is, how long did she wait to tell her family what was going on? Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Areva Martin does, the attorney, but what I will say is that sometimes you don't want to tell your family because you don't want someone to go over there and try to beat someone up and then they get killed, or to create a bigger problem.
Oh, it is a vicious cycle. It is toxicity on steroids. And if you listen to any of that testimony, again, the power dynamics, and that's one thing that we are learning or have learned over the last couple of years with these cases, whether it's R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the power dynamics, young women getting involved with these older, super powerful, super rich men who control every aspect of their lives. She recounted Diddy literally controlling the fingernail polish that she wore, her outfits, her choices in how she styled her hair, often telling her she looked too Mexican. He didn't want her looking so Mexican.
Even though she's Filipino, actually. Yeah.
Whatever that meant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that level of control over her life. And you have to think about the brain of a 19-year-old. We have a whole law in the state of California, youthful offender statute, which says we recognize that people who commit crimes under the age of 26, their brains aren't even fully developed. So let's give some grace to young people and recognize that, again, some of the decisions that people are asking this 19-year-old to make, we don't see 40 and 50-year-old people able to make the kinds of decisions. And unfortunately, when you are in these kinds of relationships, which is why everyone has come down so hard, on these types of relationships, when we see, i.e., Shannon Sharp and others involved with these young women, we know it doesn't end well. It just, rarely does it end well. And again, just the level of violence, if you just read any account of what Cassie Ventura testified to, it's just bone chilling.
Yeah, two quick follow-up questions here. And maybe you should answer them when we come forward. He paid her a whole bunch of money. They settled. I think it was $13 million or something. I don't know, some millions that he paid her.
Yeah, I think the report is 20.
20. So, why does that not stop her from testifying in the criminal trial?
Civil settlements, nothing to do with the criminal case. You can settle a civil case. You can have a non-disclosure agreement, but it doesn't prohibit you from being subpoenaed, from being forced to testify in a criminal case. Two different cases. So that civil settlement has absolutely nothing to do with whether he is liable for a crime, whether he's guilty of the crimes that he's been charged with. So anyone thinking that they can avoid criminal responsibility by settling in a civil case, the answer to that is no. There's no bearing. They're totally unrelated. It just gets you out of that civil case, but it doesn't prevent a district attorney or a U.S. attorney from investigating and charging you with a crime.
And why do you suppose they didn't charge him with domestic violence? I mean, that's what we see on tape. This is a federal trafficking case. It's a RICO case, right? But there's no domestic violence charge.
Yes, and the federal prosecutors in this case, they had a decision to make. And what we've been seeing them do in cases like R. Kelly and others, they've taken these RICO statutes that typically are used when you're prosecuting mob bosses. That's where we're probably most familiar with them, or drug cartels. But they're using them in these cases of sexual assault and sex trafficking, making the case that the business enterprise, and the business enterprise itself doesn't have to be an illegal business enterprise, but if that enterprise is used to engage in predicate crimes, and RICO has about 35 predicates, you can be found guilty of RICO violations. And it just gives the prosecutor a tremendous amount of leeway to bring in incidents that otherwise might be barred by statute of limitations, because many of these things that Cassie testified about happen outside of the traditional statute of limitations. So it allows prosecutors to literally go through your entire history and tell a narrative about your criminal activity that's far more encompassing and sweeping than other charges might allow them to do, particularly when you have applicable statutes of limitations.
We're talking with attorney Areva Martin. We're speaking on Diddy, but I also, when we come forward, I want to talk about Tory Lanez and a couple of other things that I'm hoping you can clear up. Attorney Areva Martin, at least give us a snapshot of understanding as we sort through all these many, many, many kinds of crazy that are now currently headlines in the news. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Another checkup? Why are so many people getting new puppies?
Dr. Kim's veterinary office is littered with cuteness.
We are booked solid for weeks, but who can say no to a puppy, right? Oh, good boy.
She needs to find extra vet techs to get those pups some extra love.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the California Black Chamber of Commerce invite you to the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. Get certified and register as a new bidder. Sell products and services to the state. Learn about pre-bid events and more, and it's all free. All you have to do is sign up at www.calbcc.org. That's www.calbcc.org. Registration for the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, begins at 9 a.m. and the workshop concludes at 1 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. This is a community call to action from the California Black Chamber of Commerce and KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, man. Talking with attorney Areva Martin, and there's so much to cover here. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. I got a lot of questions for you. But one question that I consistently hear about the Diddy case is, how can it be a RICO case when there's no co-defendants? And that was the same thing they said about R. Kelly. So if this was happening for all these years and there's all these folks enabling him and cooperating and helping arrange for these things to happen, why are there no other defendants in these cases?
Well, first of all, Dominique, no one knows that. So anyone that says there's no defendants is making some assumptions. We don't know who the U.S. attorney has talked to, who may have already taken a plea deal, who may have provided evidence against Diddy. We just don't know, and we may not know. And oftentimes in these cases, they being the prosecutors, go after what we'll call the little fish, the people at the bottom of the criminal enterprise. They make deals with them. They get them to provide testimony and evidence against the person at the top of the criminal enterprise, and they often will get a deal. They may get immunity. They may get some kind of plea deal. So we don't know that. And what we do know is that we heard the press conference where the U.S. attorney said the investigation is ongoing. So until we hear otherwise, we just shouldn't make that assumption because we just don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point. Breaking news, I don't expect you to necessarily comment on this, but Chris Brown has been arrested now for allegedly smashing a tequila bottle over somebody's head. I'm Team Breezy, so I hate this story, but that's breaking news as we speak. And I can understand why black men right now in America think it's dangerous to be a black man in the world, especially if you're rich, because you can say, well, yeah, he shouldn't be smashing tequila bottles over his folks' heads if he did it. But it sure seems like all of the black men with money are getting rounded up for one thing or another.
Well, we know that black folks in general, not just black men, are treated differently in our criminal justice system. We know we have a criminal justice system that disproportionately negatively impacts black people, and that starts from racial profiling to arrest to prosecution to the sentences that black folks in our criminal justice system receive. So no doubt about it, there is injustices, inequities in our criminal justice system and in the way black folks in general are treated. Now, that being said, I'm not here for the folks who don't want to hold black folk accountable when they are doing harm, particularly to women of color. So if you are a sexual abuser, if you're a sexual predator, I don't care what color you are. I'm standing with victims and I'm riding with victims. I'm the mother of 2 daughters, one of whom has had, encounters with predatory men. So I'm not with you on, the race issue. I am with calling out the inequities in our criminal justice system everywhere they exist and demanding, equity in the way that our criminal justice system metes out justice. But that doesn't exclude predators from being held accountable. And we got to stand for black women who often are victims of sexual assault and violence and whose stories often are silenced and often who are not believed when they come forward with stories of abuse. So there's a balance that we have to maintain, those of us, who are social justice warriors, which I consider myself one. But I'm going to ride for black men, but I'm also going to ride for black women who are often marginalized and thrown aside and ignored when they are the victims of serious crimes.
So, speaking of one of those black women, Megan Thee Stallion, of course, the whole saga of her getting shot ended with rapper Tory Lanez, a.k.a. Daystar Peterson, being convicted. He's now serving a 10-year sentence for shooting her in the foot in 2020. Well, I don't know. Do you still say allegedly after they're convicted? Shooting her in the foot after after an argument. He's been saying all along he was innocent. His dad, of course, famously dead. But now he's been stabbed 14 times in prison. Sounded like it was pretty serious. Stabbed in the head. His lungs collapsed. And following that stabbing, his bodyguard and driver, well, it's actually the bodyguard and driver for Megan Thee Stallion's best friend, former best friend, I don't know, frenemy, Kelsey Harris. And he's saying that the bodyguard is now saying Kelsey was the one that shot Megan, not Tory Lanez, and that Tory Lanez slapped the gun out of her hand. Why would you come forward and say something like this after Tory is stabbed? What will this change anything? What does it mean?
I don't know why. Great question. This bodyguard thinks that somehow he can help Lanez by coming forward with this information now. Presumably he had it during the time that the case was being prosecuted. Why he didn't go to the police, and maybe he did. I don't know. Too many unanswered questions about this story. It just sounds bizarre to me that someone who says they have firsthand information about something so serious is now in the news talking about it and wasn't visibly talking about it in the news when the trial was going forward. Now, the challenge now, Lanez has been convicted by a jury of his peers. His lawyers would have to file some kind of motion for a new trial, try to get some kind of post-conviction relief that would result in a new trial and now the introduction of this evidence. And that's going to be pretty impossible to do, particularly if that evidence was otherwise available at the time. So it raises questions about the competency of the counsel that Lanez had, because did his lawyer know about this witness? Why didn't the lawyer put this witness on the witness? I mean, it's just so many unanswered questions, and our criminal justice system is not set up to undo convictions quickly or easily. And not to say it can't be done. There are cases when newly discovered evidence results in a new trial being granted, but it's a long and arduous process to get to that point. But if this is new, credible information, I hope Lanez's counsel are filing the necessary motions to try to get him a new trial, to get this evidence, at least reviewed by a court. But like I said, that's a long and very difficult process.
So there is also a consideration of whether that information was widely available at the time. That's interesting. And because in today's era, they could just get on YouTube or Instagram and say, hey, look, I'm the bodyguard and blah, blah, blah. At least TMZ is going to pick on it. Someone's going to pick up on it. So it's
he's the bodyguard. He could have called the lawyer to talk to Lanez and say, look, dude, I got some evidence that can help Lanez in this case. Put me on the witness stand. Yeah, there's so many ways that could have been handled, which, again, we just don't have enough information to know. Did he try to come forward and he was rejected? How credible is this information? The friend, I don't know. It's just a lot of unanswered questions. And it's kind of curious, Dominique, because the press conference that was held is this nonprofit group that says they fight for justice for individuals who've been wronged. But from best I could tell, it didn't involve Lanez's attorney. And I'm not sure who his attorney is in this moment. So I'd love to hear from his attorney that handled the case. What does he think about this, quote unquote, newly discovered evidence?
Yeah,
because we haven't heard from him.
Unite the People is the name of the nonprofit. Attorney Areva Martin is my guest. We got a lot to talk about. We sure do. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem clashes with House Democrat Congressman Dan Goldman over immigration during a budget hearing, specifically about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, deported by the Trump administration.
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What steps have you taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm not advocating for him. I'm advocating for a court order, Madam Secretary.
The Supreme Court ordered his return, but the DOJ is contesting the ruling. A 19-year-old ex-Michigan Army National Guard member was arrested for planning an ISIS-inspired attack on a Michigan military base. He's charged with supporting terrorism and distributing destructive device info, facing up to 20 years per count. And Warner Brothers Discovery is renaming its streaming service back to HBO Max. CEO David Zaslav said they're returning to the brand known for its high-quality media. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NFL released the full schedule for the 2025 season. The Chargers will play the Kansas City Chiefs in their regular season opener. That game will be Friday night, September 5th in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Rams will be at home for their regular season opener. They play the Houston Texans on Sunday, September 7th at SoFi. First regular season game for Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter and the Jacksonville Jaguars will be be in Jacksonville on Sunday, September 7th against the Carolina Panthers. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the second team to reach the conference finals in the NBA playoffs. Minnesota eliminated Golden State Wednesday night in 5 games. They will play either Denver or Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals. Game 6 is in Denver tonight. Indiana will play New York or Boston in the East Finals. Game 6 is Friday night in New York. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. The Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, I have to start off this second half of our hour with attorney Areva Martin selfishly asking about my brother, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. I do not say brother figuratively. We are actually siblings. And my whole family was not happy that he was taken into federal custody, ICE custody, on last Friday. There's video of ICE agents letting him through the gates of the facility. He was not there protesting. He was there doing his job as the mayor, greeting the Congress people that were doing oversight of that private prison facility, which is not in compliance with local permitting and regulations. He left when they asked him to leave. They targeted him, surrounded him, and arrested no one else there. The supervisor says it came from, and they say it came from the top supervisor in New Jersey, according to my brother on this show, meaning that the command is coming from higher up the chain. And he is in court this morning, federal court, facing federal trespassing charges. What are your thoughts on federal trespassing charges?
So outrageously ridiculous, Dominique. Obviously a stunt by the Trump administration. I've been following this case very closely, disturbed by it. And from what I have been told by some confidential sources, not only was he invited onto the facility and had every right to be there, but that when the arrest occurred, he had stepped outside of the gate and was standing on the public street side that belongs to the city of Newark. was not on the private property side, and that everything was pretty much okay until, as you said, there was a call from a higher up that told the on-site agents to arrest him. And clearly done out of contempt and spite, and as a part of this just kind of performative crackdown on immigration that we are seeing being implemented by the Trump administration. So we've seen a judge be arrested and indicted for so-called, obstructing justice as it related to efforts by agents to deport someone, and now a mayor being arrested for doing his job. The good news is I think our federal courts have been holding the line. So many of the illegal efforts by the Trump administration have been rebuffed by courts, including judges appointed by Ronald Reagan and even judges appointed in the first Trump administration. So the good news is I think these charges will be summarily dismissed. Your brother will not face 30 days in jail, which is the fine for the so-called trespassing charge. And I hope it helps elevate his run for governor for the state of New Jersey, because he has become the voice of opposition against Trump's very cruel and illegal immigration policies. And I just hope this publicity around this arrest, although it's horrible to be arrested, will help elevate his voice in the primary for governor, which happens, I think, on June 10th or so. So I see the silver lining in this, and hopefully he will be leading the state of New Jersey in the ongoing opposition to Donald Trump as governor.
Yeah, I hope the same. I mean, they certainly have messed around and made him more famous. He's obviously very accomplished and very well spoken, so that's not the guy you wanted to put on every news channel. But, if they do put him in jail for 30 days, that certainly would be convenient, because it would take us right past the election and make it impossible for him to campaign.
Well, that can't happen, because the jail would only come after a conviction. So we know that there's not going to be time for a trial and, the whole judicial process to play itself out. So I have no fear that he will be in jail during the time of.
So in other words, he could already be governor by the time they put him in jail.
Yes, thank you. And I hope that the story continues to get national media attention in the way that it has, and that he continues to be the voice of opposition to Trump's cruel and, illegal immigration policies, and that it does elevate his campaign for governor. So that's my hope for him. I mean, we need more folks like him who are willing to stand up to this Trump administration, who are willing to speak truth to power, who are willing to call them out. And one of the most egregious, I don't know if you saw my post about your brother's arrest.
No, I haven't.
That was bad enough. But then we learned that this private company that runs this detention center has a $1 billion with a B, a $1 billion 15-year contract with the Trump administration. So at a time that federal workers are being fired left and right, at a time when Trump is planning some $45 million parade on his birthday, we're giving out billion-dollar contracts to these detention centers. That was also one of the most egregious parts of this story.
Yeah.
I mean, that part doesn't get talked about. The money that the federal government gives to private contractors at a time when it's touting this efficiency narrative that Elon Musk and Doge is out there to save the money, save the government so much money. But what people don't see is all the money that's being siphoned off from the federal government, given to private companies like this company to run this detention center.
Yeah, which was not in compliance, just to be clear, with the city or the state requirements for running a prison. Back to Tory Lanez for a moment, though. Okay, so let's say that somehow this case is reopened, or somehow he gets a new trial because of this bodyguard now saying that he has information, even though he's saying he overheard a conversation where the so-called friend of Megan Thee Stallion confessed that she really shot the guy. Could Megan Thee Stallion be in trouble? Let's say that came out to be true, then would she be some kind of an accessory for not having said, no, it was really that girl that shot me?
Well, again, that the likelihood of all of this getting played out in court is unfortunately slim to none. Low probability of any of this happening, but let's play it out. The bigger issue with Megan would be perjury, because she testified under oath. She gave under oath statements during a trial. So if she lied about what happened that day, that would be the biggest charge against her. But you just said the operative word here. This guard overheard, so that makes his statement hearsay to begin with. So there's even a question about whether his hearsay statement would be admissible at trial. And then we have the friend enemy. Where is she in all of this? So there would be problems and challenges to the security guard even being able to make these statements in a court, because the court of public opinion, where things can be readily said, repeated, it doesn't happen that way in a court of law. There are rules, evidentiary rules, that govern what can be said, and the credibility of witnesses can be challenged. And hearsay statements like this one would be subject to lots of arguments by the lawyers as to whether it's even admissible or not. So, again, we're a long way from Lanez being granted a new trial and this security guard statement being admitted into evidence. I am very concerned, though, about him being stabbed. Let's talk about that. What's going on in California prisons, that they're not keeping prisoners safe, and the alleged perpetrator of the stabbing, I read something that talked about he's already serving a life sentence for murder.
Santino Casio is his name, a 41-year-old with a self-made shank. Yeah.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
And
If he's already serving life, so what?
And he already has 2 other criminal offenses while in prison serving life. So again, what does that say about the protection that's provided? Whether Tory Lanez is innocent or not, he's in custody of federal state authorities in the state of California prison system, and they have an obligation to keep these prisoners safe from that kind of brutal attack. So I'd like to see Lanez's family, challenging the safety of him and any other prisoner, not just him because he's a rapper, but anyone that's incarcerated in any prison around the country has a right to be there without worrying about being stabbed to death.
Yeah,
so that's very troubling.
It is troubling. And I mean, it's interesting they put the guy, this guy Casio, they put him in protective or restrictive, I guess they call it, housing during the investigation. Lanez is in the hospital. But do you think that there's any chance they'll transfer him to some other kind of prison that's safer than Tehachapi?
Well, I would hope that's the hope is that Lanez's family would be making all kinds of, pleas and requests for his transfer to someplace safe, because it doesn't appear that he could return to that prison with this assailant and be safe. And, we don't know if this is some kind of gang. I mean, we just don't know enough about, why was he targeted by this guy that's, this lifer? That wasn't clear in any of the reports that I've read.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we hear rumors and speculations. I restrict myself. I don't let myself report on the rumors and things that I hear online or whatever. I try to be responsible about that. But it's a great point, because if we don't know why, then we don't know how to keep him safe. And to your point, whether you think he's guilty or innocent, a lot of people don't even think that he any shots reached Megan's foot. That's another conversation for another day. But regardless of what you think, the guy you're not supposed to be stabbed 14 times. And if your lungs collapse, you can die. I mean, that's really serious.
No, you shouldn't be injured at all in prison. You have a right to be protected and to be safe. So I just hope that the family is taking all necessary steps to do what they can do to get him to someplace that's safe when he does recover, and hopefully he will have a speedy and complete recovery from this kind of violent attack.
When we come forward, we're going to squeeze in a couple more conversations here. I know I'm making you talk about a lot of things, but there's so much going on. that needs a legal mind on it. Rodney Hinton Jr., what's happening with that case and this birthright citizenship going to the Supreme Court. KBLA Talk 1580, even more than usual. We got a lot to talk about.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
40 acres and a mule. This is bigger than the music. Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
At Providence, health equity is the foundation of our community health initiatives, ensuring care reaches those who need it most. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. African Americans face a higher risk of life-threatening issues like hypertension, the number one cause of stroke. 55% of black adults have high blood pressure. The good news is 80% of heart disease is preventable with healthy lifestyle changes and patient-centered care provided by the Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. From routine screenings to advanced procedures, Providence provides comprehensive care for the heart conditions that overly impact our community by ensuring patients receive treatments tailored to their needs. Let's stop the trend of being 30% more likely to die from heart-related problems. Take charge of your heart health with world-class cardiologists who deliver the compassionate care you deserve. Visit providence.org/SoCalHeart. That's providence.org/SoCalHeart to request an appointment. Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with super lawyer, attorney Areva Martin. The case of Ryan Hinton, the young man who was fatally shot by Cincinnati police, first day of May. He was running away. Apparently, the cops say he had a gun on him, but they always say that. Also, if he was fleeing, how was he a threat? Anyway, the father of that 18-year-old is now in custody. He allegedly purposely hit another cop with his car, killing him, sheriff's deputy, shortly after meeting with authorities about his son's murder, his son's killing, whatever you want to call it. He's in custody. They're seeking the death penalty in that case. And several questions about that case. It's reminding me a little bit of the CEO killer in that the police are lining up, law enforcement lining up against this guy, obviously killing one of their own. But many people are also lining up in support of him because his son was killed by cops. There was a GoFundMe. GoFundMe took it down. Now there's another site, Give, Send, Go, that has a fundraising effort for him. There's a letter writing campaign. Many people, talking about him sympathetically online. I'll start there.
Such a tragic case, Dominique. First of all, you have a young black man that's been shot and killed by police. How many times have we seen that happen? Just too many times. So that is tragic in and of itself. And then the father is shown the body cam video and obviously is so traumatized by what he saw in that video, the shooting death of his son, that he then allegedly drives his car into this sheriff, and then the sheriff is killed. I mean, it's just tragic. The family has to mourn the loss of the young man that was killed by police and now have to fight a very serious criminal case against his dad. And I know how people, the sympathy that Mr. Hinton is getting from the public. Luigi Mangione, he's raised over $1 million after shooting and killing Brian Thompson, the United Health CEO, on broad daylight. Look, and here's the reality. As tragic as the death of Mr. Hinton's son is, as horrible as our healthcare system is in this country, when you kill someone, you are going to be held accountable. So the public sympathy is not going to shield you from criminal prosecution.
Right.
Mangione is now facing the death penalty. Trump administration has instructed the U.S. Attorney General to seek the death penalty against him. And all the money, all the love letters in the world are not going to shield Mangione, and he will either get the death penalty or he will spend the rest of his life in prison. He hasn't changed the healthcare system. Nothing has changed. That's not how we change policy in this country. Mr. Hinton is likely to serve a very long prison sentence for, if he is convicted, we don't know, just allegations at this point, but if he is convicted of running his car into that sheriff, he's going to serve time for that. So I just want
possibly get the death penalty. I mean, he could actually die.
He could, and we don't, and nothing's going to change about police shooting unarmed black men. So we don't change policies in this country by retribution, by killing the people who we see responsible for the bad policies. It's just not how we get things done in this country. So all that has happened is now Luigi Mangione, a very young man, is going to spend the rest of his life in prison or die. Nothing will change about United Healthcare. Nothing's going to change about Blue Cross, any of these health insurance companies that you have issues with. And poor Mr. Hinton's family. They're not only losing his son to death and murder, but now they're going to have to deal with a potential long prison term for the dad. So just tragedy all the way around. And as much as, your heart may go out to these people and you may want to make them martyrs, the criminal justice system doesn't see it that way. It won't be introduced as evidence into the court cases. The prosecutors, it's just noise to them. GoFundMe, $5 million. It doesn't matter. It's noise to the prosecutors. Mm-hmm. The love letters that Mangione's getting, the support that you just mentioned that Mr. Hinton is getting, is noise to the prosecutors. So I just want to encourage folks, when you are upset about our system of laws, our policies, protest.
Don't
march.
go shoot somebody.
Don't, because you're just destroying your life and your family's life. I mean, it just doesn't solve problems. And
I always say that you don't get to just kill people. I always say that, but at the same time, I understand the sympathy. I understand, but couldn't this be a factor for jurors? I'm thinking about OJ and what many felt was a jury nullification. Couldn't a Luigi Mangione or this Hinton guy, couldn't he face a sympathetic jury?
You might, but you might not, Dominique. The reality is, Mr. Hinton, I heard something, one of his lawyers said, he believes he had a psychological break, and, they may try to plead some kind of insanity defense, but it's just risky. I mean, it's just risky. Yeah. And yes, my heart goes out. I can't even imagine watching a body cam video of police shooting and killing my child. Of course you would have the most, extreme emotional reaction to that.
Yeah.
But we've seen other parents who've had to endure it and they didn't, allegedly, and again, I'm just going to use that word because we just don't know what happened in that case. But my heart goes out to the Hinton family. I empathize with their entire family. My prayers are with them. Mr. Thompson's family, the CEO, the man had kids. It just doesn't solve the problems that people are upset about. It just doesn't. So,
yeah,
that is the reality. Lots of messed up systems in this country. Lots of work to be done. And we've got to stay vigilant. We've got to vote. We've got to hold our elected officials accountable if we want to see healthcare change, if we want to see changes to our police and our criminal justice system. We just have to do it in the ways that we know to be effective, and we have seen changes. And we just have to keep doing what we know that can move the needle in these cases.
I have to talk about birthright citizenship tomorrow because we're almost out of time here. But it's very bizarre.
Crazy.
This lady,
case.
Bizarre case with potentially wide-ranging impact. But since we're out of time, I thought I would ask about this. The woman in that Rodney Hinton Jr. case filed a lawsuit, sued. We all assumed it was coming from him. It's a civil suit against the Cincinnati Police Department. It's just some random lady that's never even talked to the attorney or Mr. Hinton. Is that? Can you do that?
No, and it will be dismissed. No, Mr. Hinton's lawyer is saying no. Like, we don't know you. We don't need your help. We got you covered. We have this covered. He has a lawyer. His lawyer's been very outspoken. So it's just a citizen. Thank God she didn't do anything violent. She used the court system. She raised awareness about what she believed are violations of Mr. Hinton's rights, and God bless her. And the lawyer will take it from here.
Spoken like a lawyer. Areva, Attorney Areva Martin, tell us how to track you and see your podcast.
Yes, please follow me, All Things Areva Martin, on social, and go to my YouTube page, subscribe, and check out the special reports. Interesting interviews, political, legal, interviews about the culture, newsmakers, influencers, separating fact from fiction in this time that we are being fed so much disinformation. Always a pleasure to be with you, Dominique. Thank you for what you do so much for the community and helping folks make sense of things that sometimes don't even seem like they are capable of being comprehended. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for loaning us your brain. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a jam-packed show chock full of great guests. You do not want to miss that. Our programming is amazing all day long. Tavis is smiled. Smiley is followed by Dr. Cornel West, etc., etc., etc. I think it's time for Jim Brown's decision-making process today. He says from his curriculum, eliminate the negative, establish the facts, and choose your best option. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem clashes with House Democrat Congressman Dan Goldman over immigration during a budget hearing, specifically about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, deported by the Trump administration.
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What steps have you taken?
For planning an ISIS-inspired attack on a Michigan military base. He's charged with supporting terrorism and distributing destructive device info.